Okay, howdy guys. I'm doing one of my very first Let's Plays ever. Upload this most likely to my channel that has a few video game things
Dear Esther,
from WoW, and
I've lost track of how long I've been here, and how many
Deus
visits
Ex.
I have made overall. Certainly the landmarks are now so familiar to me that I have to remind myself to actually see the forms and shapes in front of me. I could stumble blind across these rocks, the edges of these precipices, without fear of missing my step and plummeting down to sea.
This guy's voice
Besides,
kind of...
I've always considered that if one is to fall, it is critical to keep one's eyes firmly open.
The guy's voice kind of sounds like... I'm just going to ramble off about whatever pops in my mind. Sejin, like this Yogscast Sejin dude, he did a really cool walkthrough that was very kind of peaceful. And he didn't talk that much in it. And he just was kind of like just showing people who watched the walkthrough the game, which was cool. It was kind of like his walkthrough was kind of like being in a art gallery. I saw Total Biscuits what the fuck or WTF is, and he didn't like it. He was bashing it, sort of, or trying to be objective. I do like that the flashlight goes on there automatically. You know, because you don't have to do anything. Like in Half-Life, for example, you always have to turn on the flashlight. Or in whatever game there is when there's a flashlight involved. I'm actually quite excited about this. I got fraps hooked up, and I tried to do some Let's Plays of Deus Ex Human Revolution, and just my hard drive just exploded because the data files were so big. I'm just kind of talking out loud during this. There are other Let's Plays out there that are probably more informative, or interesting, or insightful. But I'm just going to ramble, or more that are respecting the game. So it's kind of immersive, you know. It's really beautiful. This is supposed to be like the Hebrides Scottish archipelago island. I was reading up about the game devs on this. The cool thing about this Let's Play is that it's I'm not trying to have a good or bad Let's Play. I'm just like, okay, I'll fraps record this and talk while I'm playing it. Looks like a little lobster net thing. Alright, I'm going to just talk about the game, even the ending of it. So I might wait to that, but later. Actually, there's no real spoilers in this game, because it is quite beautiful, though. Wow, like I would like to go to this island for a week, like totally alone, but then have like babes pop up, have like wild, assuming this water is warm, nature sex.
There was once
That'd be
talk
awesome.
of a wind farm out here, away from the rage and the intolerance of the masses. The sea, they said, is too rough for the turbines to stand. They clearly never came here to experience the becalming for themselves. Personally, I would have supported it. Turbines would be a fitting contemporary refuge for a hermit. The revolution and the permanence.
See, at first this sounds really eloquent. It's like, wow, this guy is like deep. He's some old guy. Like all these little weird diagrams around here. But the annoying thing is, this game is almost exactly like Myst, but then it deteriorates into just... Well, the guy's dialogues deteriorate into just not incoherent drivel, but things that just don't make sense. And the game was designed to be deliberately ambiguous, as far as I can tell. The annoying thing is, like, you see these little things. You see this in like Myst or Riven, Cyan worlds, and that would be like a puzzle solution, or a puzzle, you know, that would help you solve a puzzle on a door or something. But there are no puzzles in this, which is kind of fun. Like I remember playing Myst in the 90s and having to dude, I'm kind of psyched. This is my first full walkthrough, or full Let's Play ever.
I found myself to be as featureless as this ocean, as shallow and unoccupied as this bay, a listless wreck without identification. My rocks are these bones, and a careful fence to keep the precipice at bay. Shot through me caves, my forehead a mount. This aerial will transmit into me so. All overexposed, the nervous system, where Donnelly's boots and yours and mine still trample. I will carry a torch for you. I will leave it at the foot of my headstone. You will need it for the tunnels that carry me on.
See, a lot of it, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. When I played this once through, and I was kind of like, I was delighted that it was so effortless. It is the most effortless game ever. Insanely effortless. But it is kind of just like a nature. It's kind of more of like a nature BBC Life kind of thing with some weird ambiguous utterances, really. But Mist and Riven, you know, I had to get the walkthrough strategy guide for those games. I played that with some relatives, and we're like, "Oh, that's how you solve that." And some of those were just impossible, like some of those puzzles. So this is just, I don't know what the dev's intention was with this, but I did read their blogs. And see, I'm just going to try to do this Let's Play. This is my first full Let's Play. This is awesome. Oh, it's awesome. Like, partially I'm going to try to be, like, informative. Like, oh, okay, somebody on YouTube might actually watch this. But I'm also just kind of going to talk to myself. Hopefully with less incoherency than the protagonist here. But I went to their site, and they use the same WordPress theme, which is called Atahualpa, for this game, the DearEsther.com, that I use on my Linux Geekoid tech site, which is awesome. Ooh, that made me happy, because I really like that theme. You can customize everything. But mine looks bloggy, which is okay, because it is a blog. But theirs looks really, really pro, like a website, which is cool. But it's cool you can customize that same theme. Anyways, there's 7 people that made this game. A composer, a coder, a voice actor, a producer,
Donnelly's book had not been taken out from
a level designer,
since 1974.
and
I decided it would never be
a concept artist.
I slipped it under my coat and avoided the librarian's gaze on the way out. If the subject matter is obscure, the writer's literary style is even more so. It is not the text of a stable or trustworthy reporter. Perhaps it is fitting that my only companion in these last days should be a stolen book written by a dying man.
So you're like, who is this dying man? Is that this guy? And see that little lighthouse beacon there? The red light just went on? That's where you're heading towards. And that kind of reminded me of Alan Wake, a game I did not like. I liked it a little bit, but then I didn't like the part when he was at like the insane asylum and it was all like trippy. There is a lot of stuff about like trippy stuff in video games.
Sacrifice. They cut parallel lines into the cliff, exposing the white chalk beneath. You could see them from the mainland or the fishing boat, and know to send aid, or impose a cordon of protection, and wait a generation until whatever pestilence stalked the cliff path died along with its hosts. My lines are just for this, to keep any would-be rescuers at bay. The infection is not simply of the flesh.
So, I'm kind of trying to be cautious a bit about spoilers, but I'm just going to say what I have to say. I did a little research on this, and parts of this are deliberately ambiguous. There was this guy's wife, who apparently died in a car crash, and then somehow this guy got an injury, but I don't know how he ended up on his island. Was it voluntary?
I quote directly, a motley lot with little to recommend them. I have now spent 3 days in their company. That is, I fear, enough for any man not born amongst them. Despite their tedious inclination to quote scripture, they seem to me the most godforsaken of all the inhabitants of the outer isles. Indeed, in this case, the very gravity of that term, forsaken by God, seems to find its very apex. It appears to me that Donnelly, too, found those who wander this shoreline to be adrift from any chance of redemption. Did he include himself in that?
So... Just making a little more tea. Hold on. I could pause it. Alright, so, basically, this guy, he sounds all poetic, which I like. I was like, wow, you know, this is like English class 10,000 or whatever. But then it just becomes like drivel. Or not drivel. It sounds like these really like oathy, tome-like utterances from a brilliant Scottish mind, or whoever this person is. But then it's kind of like just lunacy. Now, you talked about those things scratched on the rocks. Look at that boat. This is cool. Like, how did he get here? They don't explain that. That pisses me off. Like, I can attribute these little weird markings all around as him just being insane, but...
I met Paul. I made my own little pilgrimage. My Damascus, a small semi-detached on the outskirts of Wolverhampton. We drank coffee in his kitchen and tried to connect to one another. Although he knew I hadn't come in search of an apology, reason or retribution, he still spiraled in panic, thrown high and lucid by his own dented bonnet. Responsibility had made him old. Like us, he'd already passed beyond any conceivable boundary of life.
So, how did he... They don't explain how he got here, which is a little annoying. Now, I forget, some parts in the water... He dies really easily. And that's really kind of... There's one time you go in the water, and you, like, end up in a underwater highway. I wonder if that could happen now. This would be cool just to, like, swim when you want, walk around when you want. Okay, I don't want to die. Alright, alright. So, one time I was swimming, and I ended up in an underwater highway. Oh, that's not good, that's not good, that's not good. Okay, I'm just going to tell you this, that come back, that's the last line of the entire game. But this is not the end of the game. Probably shouldn't have said that, but oh well. It's not, there's no like spoilers in this game, that was the thing. There's no like G-Man is actually pops up and... Alright, when I was in a cave, you could swim underwater and ended up on an underwater highway. Totally serious, with like lampposts and shit. Alright, so this game is 4 chapters. I really liked reading the blogs of the people in the I don't like that comeback in the about the game devs.
I would leave you presents outside your retreat in this interim space between cliff and beach. I would leave you loaves and fishes, but the fish stocks have been depleted and I've run out of bread. I would row you back to your homeland in a bottomless boat, but I fear we would both be driven mad by the chatter of the sea creatures.
Okay, still here, still here. If you are still watching this, thank you so much. This is definitely my first full walkthrough thing. Alright. So, I did really like I enjoyed reading the blogs of the game devs. The coder, you talked all about all these like 300 link errors and all these .dll, like strict coding stuff. The level designer, the guy who designed this level stuff, using the source, I forgot what engine it was. They talked about Portal 2 engine and other engines, and that was really cool. And then, but it was awesome to see that the devs involved in this game, there's 7 people. Let's see, okay, composer, coder, level designer, producer, voice actor, concept artist. Oh, fuck all, and there's one other. But they're all individuals. Like you go to their site, and the voice actor is just like a voice actor dude, and the coder, he's like talking about code stuff recently, and they just, they kind of put whatever they do normally on pause and channel their specialty into... Did I just walk in this way? Bollocks. And they channeled their specialty into this game, which is kind of cool. This is kind of peaceful, I have read up on this, and I was reading the blogs of the people before even playing it, so I can try to be a little bit informative but also just rambly. What the hell is that? Is that clothes? So it seems like somehow this guy ended up on this island. Whether that is voluntary or not is perpetually unknown. And, yes, those are ships of an armada of letters, discovered later. And I think he just went crazy, being all, like, dismal and weepy because of this, apparently his wife, Esther, that I think died in a car crash. Now, that's not a spoiler, because you never learn that. It's just something that can be, deduced only. So it is kind of like I was interested in game development, and it was easy to see how this game was developed with all the seven people. Like Paths of Exile, I was watching Kriparian play that just because that guy's awesome, and he has a cool setup. I mean, it's a little bit. I could see how it could be imprisoning, but he's got the Twitch set up. Most of his vids get around 40,000 views minimum. And he just games nonstop, and that's a setup. It's very niche, and I don't think I'd like that, but it's kind of cool. Anyways, he was playing a lot of PoE, and I don't know anything about that game, but I looked up the game dev stuff, and it was ambiguous. It was like a team of their staff was like 18 people, but then there's probably other people involved. This Dear Esther, the Chinese room, seemed just 7 people.
The vegetation here has fossilized from the roots up. To think they once grazed animals here, the remnants of occupation being evidence to that. It is all sick to death. The water is too polluted for the fish, the sky is too thin for the birds, and the soil is cut with the bones of hermits and shepherds. I've heard it said that human ashes make great fertilizer, that we could sow a forest from all that is left of your hips and ribcage, with enough left over to thicken the air and repopulate the bed.
Quite morose, really. Quite bleak. Human ashes is whatever. See, in Myst, or some other game, you could pick these up, and then you'd have an inventory, and then you'd have puzzles to solve, and there's no inventory in this. There's no touching anything, actually. Total Biscuits WTF, which was quite funny. Because, I don't know, some people tend to like, a lot of his stuff, I remember from Blue Please was like heavy metal and and like this is the opposite, the antithesis of that. I don't necessarily dislike it nor like it, but it is. I do like some parts of this a lot. But he was saying it just you just press the W key the whole time, which is really funny, which is true. I'm not even strafing in this because I have frostbite on my left hand. It's kind of annoying. My channels. Okay, I think this is the next stage. Yes. Whenever you cross something that is irreversibly traversable, that's kind of hard to say, irreversibly traversable, like you can't go back up that ravine, it loads the next chapter, so that's the end of chapter 1.